Hey! Wow. I promise it won't take a month for the next video to come out. I already have the next video written. It's not gonna take a whole month, I swear. Alright, y'all. The only excuse I have is I started a new job back in the beginning of September. Yeah, no, I'm not lying. I've had this video written, I've had it prepared for weeks, and I just never found the time. Yeah. Lazy. We're talking about art today. Yeah. We're talking about video games as art. This is something that doesn't come up too frequently these days, at least, you know, not as much as it used to. I think a lot of people, with the advent of, you know, these really high-res games, you know, things like God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, you know, things like that, you know, really pretty games. I think nowadays a lot of people look at video games as art in the sense of graphical power or the way they appear or look, not as a whole product. I think most people will look at a video game and say, well, that's art because it's pretty or it's beautiful. And just so you know, I'm not gonna go through this whole video with as a art essay, you know, some giant, you know, thesis on why video games should be considered art. I'm not that smart, honestly. This is mostly just I really want to show this game to everyone because I think this is a perfect example of why a video game can be art. So without further bumbling around, I'd like to introduce you to REZ. REZ is a rail shooter. If you're not familiar with the genre, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like it is. Rail shooters typically play in either the first or third person perspective and will usually employ a reticule that you move around the screen independently from your avatar. Some games like Sin and Punishment allow you to move your character as well, but mainly rail shooters are, well, on rails. REZ was originally released in 2001 in Japan for the Dreamcast and the PlayStation 2. So REZ was inspired by both electronic music and Russian painter Wassily Kandinsky. I think the inspiration is fairly obvious when looking at the game. The game's visuals use a lot of rigid but also fluid line work, along with bright, bold color choices. There's a very digital, technological look to the game, if that makes any sense. It reminds me a lot of Tron, actually, with not only the way it looks, but its narrative concept as well.
It happens inside the computer, in a dimension man has never seen. Kevin Flynn, computer genius, is programmed into the world of the computer. Held prisoner in an electronic arena where love and escape do not compute. Tron, an adventure inside the computer, rated PG.
REZ's storyline is underplayed, although it's not completely ignored. Eden is an AI that controls the data flow for a super network called Project K. You play as a virus that infected Eden. Overwhelmed and questioning her own existence, she enters a shutdown sequence. Project K shutting down would cause catastrophic problems across the world. The virus, regretting his actions, returns to invade her mainframe and reboot Eden. Let's go ahead and jump into REZ's first stage. Starting off nice and easy, you'll shoot down 2 enemy viruses. Did you hear that? The game's soundtrack is actually linked to the gameplay. Shooting down enemies will affect the tempo and add different notes and sounds to the song. This combined with REZ's visual style are what make the game such a unique and worthwhile experience. Mitsuguchi wanted to use the game's sounds and visuals to help the player reach a state of synesthesia, a perceptual phenomenon where stimulation of one's senses leads to an automatic and involuntary experience in a second sense. What that basically means is you have one sense that's being stimulated and it automatically stimulates another sense in a different way at the exact same time. One example they use a lot of the time is you see certain letters in certain colors. So you'll always see the letter A in blue, or you'll always see the letter B in red, or every time you see a certain color, you smell a certain smell, that kind of thing. Okay, so oddly enough, there was an accessory sold with REZ called the Trance Vibrator. The idea was to place the device in your pocket or sit on the device while playing the game to help achieve that state of synesthesia. Okay, yes, it's basically a sex toy. As a game, it couldn't be any simpler. You fly along a set path, hovering your cursor over enemies, locking on and releasing the fire button. You'll come across these blue progress nodes that will fill the meter on the bottom left. After filling this bar once, you'll evolve into a new form. These evolutions don't really provide any sort of advantage aside from raising your base health as you gain more progress nodes. There are also red overdrive nodes. These will allow you to use an overdrive mode where all viruses on screen will be automatically destroyed for a limited time. You'll also spot password protectors. These little things need to be shot down in order to travel to the next layer in the stage. There are 10 layers in a stage before you reach the boss battle. Bosses are large firewall programs that protect access to the next stages. All of them have multiple phases and they employ a bunch of different attacks to stop you. And they can be pretty intimidating, especially if you're low on health. After defeating a firewall, you'll progress onto the next stage and you'll repeat the process. As a game, REZ is pretty dang simple, especially by today's overly complicated standard. At the end of REZ, you'll need to survive a boss rush before facing the final section of the game. REZ doesn't have a standard final boss like most games. It's more like the end of Super Hot, where you need to attack a large central structure while fighting off waves of enemies in between your assault. After defeating this final area, Eden will reboot and thank you for restoring her. You'll get a different ending depending on your rating and the evolution you're in whenever you beat the game. I've only ever seen the worst ending actually, where Eden returns to her previous state and requires rebooting again. I just couldn't keep myself from losing all my health right at the end now, could I? Now, REZ was actually remastered as REZ Infinite and is available on PS4 and Windows in both VR and non-VR modes. And I can't really comment on how REZ plays in VR personally, as I've yet to experience any form of VR. REZ Infinite is actually the version I've been playing throughout this whole video. One of REZ's biggest criticisms to date, and it's a criticism I actually share, is that the game is too short. This is one of those games that you wish would just keep going after you finish its slightly over an hour mark. There are only 5 stages in the original game, and while they're all incredibly enjoyable and in my opinion very replayable, you'll still find yourself craving new and original levels and songs. REZ does offer a few other modes that will help keep your attention after beating the main campaign, but REZ Infinite adds the jaw-dropping Area X. Area X is a completely new, all-range, free-flying stage with new visuals and music that left me in absolute awe. The stage is so liberating to play, and it's a spectacle to witness. The particle effects, the new virus designs, the color palette, the music, everything about Area X makes it my favorite part of REZ Infinite. A VR headset may still be a ways off for me financially, but this mode alone put the platform on my wish list. I cannot wait to try Area X in PlayStation VR. It really is breathtaking to experience. REZ is without a doubt in my mind a piece of art. It invokes emotion, thought, and it oozes human expression. It's games like this that should be shoved front line and center when someone devalues the medium as an art form. I believe REZ is a more true expression of video games as an art form compared to something like Flower or Journey. Many of the titles that people like to bring up when they're arguing video games as art are very lacking in actual gameplay. They choose to focus on things like story or a message of some sort instead of actual gameplay. I think REZ finds a happy medium between sending out a story and a message and gameplay. I've made it a habit at this point to talk about the prices of games I review, and currently an original PS2 copy of REZ shouldn't run you more than $25 to $30 depending on where you look, maybe even less now actually. REZ Infinite is available for digital download for $30, but you can pick it up physically for $40 from im8bit.com. Judging REZ purely as a video game, I think it's totally worth its price tag. Whether you're getting the original version, which has actually dropped down in price thanks to the Infinite remake, or if you're actually going out and getting Infinite, whether digitally or physically. It's a fantastic rail shooter with amazing, dazzling visuals, great music, and it's a ton of fun to boot. And honestly, if you haven't played it on your VR set yet, I bet you're gonna go and find it and put it on after this. If at any point in this video you thought that REZ looked interesting, get it, try it, please.
I'm shitting on your wedding vows. You know what? The Jabberwocky games had some of the worst wedding vows, I think, ever. I think they could be the absolute worst wedding vows. Why would you vow that? Shame. Shame. It's never gonna last.